is past 5 o'clock. We will call to order the organizational meeting of the Clarkston Board of Education. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.2 is the roll call. Mrs. McLean, if you could please call the roll.
Yes. Mrs. Crane?
Here.
Mrs. Sackers? Here. Mrs. Egan? Mrs. McGinnis?
Here.
Mr. Hyde?
Here.
Mrs. Love?
Here.
Mr. Mead?
Here. We have a quorum. We will proceed. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community hearing. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in agenda items 3 and 9. Because this is the start of our year and we have no officers at this point, item 1.4 is election of a temporary chairperson. May I have a motion, please?
I move to elect Greg Mead as a temporary chairperson for this meeting.
Support.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Item 1.4 is appointment of temporary secretary, and I would appoint Mrs. McGinnis to be the temporary secretary for this brief period of time before we elect officers.
Support.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought somebody had a question. Item 1.6, election of board officers. Item 1.6.1, election of president. Are there any nominations?
I move to nominate Greg Mead for the office of President of the Board of Education.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Are there any other nominations? If not, a motion to close nominations would be in order.
I'll move to close nominations for the office of president.
Support.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And then a motion would be in order to appoint me as president.
I move to appoint Greg Mead as president for the Board of Education for the school year of 2024-25.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your confidence. I've enjoyed working with everyone last year and look forward to doing so in the upcoming year. Item 1.6.2 is the election of a vice president. May I have any nominations, please?
I would like to nominate Stephanie Crane for the office of Vice President for 24-25.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, a motion will be in order to close nominations for the office of Vice President.
I move to close nominations for the office of Vice
Support.
All those in favor of closing nominations signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Motion will be in order then to elect Mrs. Crane as Vice President for 2024-25.
I move to elect Stephanie Crane as Vice President for that year.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Congratulations, Mrs. Crane.
Thank you.
And I do want to take a moment to thank Mrs. Egan for her service as Vice President. She was stepped forward last year in midstream to take the office of Vice President when I was unable to do that due to the circumstances beyond my control. And she did a fine job that year. She did a fine job this year. I've appreciated her wisdom and her guidance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mead.
Item 1.6.3 is election of the office of Treasurer. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Elizabeth Egan for the office of Treasurer of the Board of Education.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Are there any other nominations for the office of Treasurer? Seeing none, a motion will be in order to close nominations for the office of Treasurer.
I move to close the nominations for Treasurer.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Motion would then be in order to elect Mrs. Egan to the office of treasurer.
Move to elect Ms. Egan as office of treasurer.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Item 1.6.4, election for the office of secretary. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Mrs. McGinnis for the office of secretary.
Support.
Motion's made and supported for Mrs. McGinnis. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, a motion would be in order to close nominations for the office of secretary.
I'll move to close nominations for the office of secretary.
Support.
All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, and a motion would then be in order to elect Mrs. McGinnis to the office of secretary for 2024-25.
I'll move to elect Mrs. McGinnis secretary as stated.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Congratulations, Mrs. McGinnis.
Thank you.
Item 2 is the approval of the consent agenda. I did receive a request from a board member to take item 2.11, authorization of district memberships, off the consent agenda, and we will make that action item 6.5. Under our board policies, any board member can make that request. With that, the consent agenda with the amendment is before you. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. We do have an item that requires a roll call vote. So, Mrs. McLean, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Hyde.
Yes.
Mrs. Egan.
Yes.
Mrs. Cybers.
Yes.
Mrs. Love.
Yes.
Mrs. Crane.
Yes.
Mrs. McGinnis.
Yes.
Mr. Need.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Item 3 is citizens' request to address the board. Seeing no citizens in the audience, we can move forward to our action items. We have no superintendent update tonight. We have no presentations. Item 6.1 under action items is approval of personnel changes. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the personnel changes as listed on the attached sheets.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any questions or comment? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.2 is the approval of the SEC Shield contract for a safety director. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the contract with SEC Shield for a district safety director as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. For the benefit of the public, Dr. Ryan, would you perhaps just give a brief summary of this item?
Absolutely. Looking at the work that we've done over the years with safety and security, we felt looking at the standard of care and where we can grow as a district, that it would be a really opportune time to create this relationship further with the SEC company in terms of bringing on a full-time safety director. Our administrative team taking a cue from the board that we did not want a full-time in terms of year-round, but during the school year seemed to fit our needs, and also looking at trying to find the right person to fill that role. The individual that SEC is going to provide under these contracted services has extensive experience with the Michigan State Police, working on all elements of institutional safety, homeland security, and a wealth of other type of duties that she held with the state police. And looking at the next couple of years, I feel like that this would be extremely helpful, not only of having a point person to evaluate the safety security procedures and protocols that we have at Clarkston Schools, the physical plant safety, but also helped us as boots on the ground managing the crises of safety and security that come up timely throughout every school year. Having this individual on board to help myself and Mr. Lucido, which would be the direct line of reporting for this individual, to be able to help manage situations. We believe that we can learn something from this individual as they can probably learn a little bit more about school. It's going to be definitely a partnership as we move forward. And then looking at the wealth of resources that SEC has that will open to us in terms of monitoring social media and other means, we feel like that this is definitely worthy of Clarkston Schools to pursue, at least for the next 3 years. I'd highly recommend that, and we'll have this individual as part of our overall team provide an update at intervals as discussed with board leadership, to the entire board and community, what's relevant, and kind of keeping a big picture view of their interactions and actions, and that at the end of the 3-year period that we do a very highly critical review to see where we are point in time on how necessary and what we need in the future for these services or not. But definitely, I think we landed in a really good spot. And I would take any questions or anything.
Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Ryan? Mrs.
Just a
McGinnis?
comment, please, President Need. I would just like to commend our administration for taking the lead on this. I've always felt, as a member of this community for almost 40 years now, that we don't take anything for granted. And the safety of our students and the safety of our faculty and staff is the most important thing that we have. They're our clients. And I've always enjoyed being a leader in this district. That is us, the Board of Education, and the partnership with administration. So I fully support this action because I think this action is going to lead to us growing in this area and learning from one another, them learning from us learning from them, to keep our faculty and our students safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. Any other comments?
I just had a comment.
Ms. Sivers?
To be able to say to our district, the parents, the students, and the staff that we have a security expert on staff, I think is a monumental moment for our district. I truly do. And I'm excited to be a part of the board that approves this, but I'm also excited to see in the next 3 years that there's a security expert on staff that will not only assist our administration, but will also assist in all of the proactive approaches and research to ensure that our district is a step ahead rather than just reacting to situations. And for me as a parent, which is above and beyond my roles on the board, for a parent to be able to say to other parents in the district that we have a security expert, it means a lot to me personally as a mom, and I know it means a lot to our district. So I just wanted to thank the board and the administration for seeing this through, but also for getting somebody so exceptionally qualified that's just above and beyond. I'm really grateful. As a mom, I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6.3 is the approval of the K-5 ARC Core Pilot, Unit 1 Literacy Materials. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves the purchase of the K-5 ARC Core Pilot Unit 1 for a total of $70,130 to be paid with Section 35J grant funds as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. We did have extensive discussions at our workshop in May about the options for these programs, and we learned about the ARC Core Pilot and some other programs. So this is implementing the recommendation from our administration. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 6.4 is approval of conference attendance. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education approves board member attendance at any of the attached conferences is in compliance with Board Bylaw 0175.1.
Support.
Motion's made and supported. Board members have given their input as to the conferences that they may wish to attend in the upcoming year. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 6.5 then is the item taken from the consent agenda, authorization of the district's membership in the Michigan Association of School Boards. May I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education takes action to establish district membership for the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Support.
Motion made and supported. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, although,
I will make a
Mrs.
comment.
McGinnis, I'm sorry.
Not knowing the reason it was pulled, and that's beside the point, but I would say that, to me, these memberships are critical to the work that I do in this community on behalf of the Board of Education and students and faculty. And without the knowledge base that I personally have acquired from these memberships and the training that I get, I could not become an effective board member.
Thank you, Mrs. McGinnis. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. Thank you. We have no reports, discussion items tonight. Item 9, citizen comments. We have no citizens in the audience. For information items, our next Board of Education meeting will be Monday, August 12th in the boardroom here, beginning at 7 p.m. At this point, we will recess and travel to Buckshot's Grill for our board retreat for the upcoming year. So we will see you all there in a few minutes.
Thank you.